Today's story: Dwarfton and the Sacrifices for Peace. Nestled deep within the heart of a sprawling forest, there lay a quiet village known as Dwarfton. Unlike most dwarf villages, Dwarfton's inhabitants were not miners or blacksmiths. Instead, they were renowned for their unique ability to harness the life essence of flowers that grew abundantly in their enchanted woods. The village of Dwarfton was hidden away from the hustle and bustle of the outside world. To the untrained eye, it seemed like any ordinary dwarf village, with stout stone cottages and cobblestone pathways. However, beneath the surface, Dwarfton held a remarkable secret that sustained its residents for generations. At the heart of the village stood the great blossom tree, an ancient and colossal oak tree adorned with the most vibrant and exotic flowers imaginable. These flowers, known as Elysian blooms, were unlike any others found in the surrounding woods. They radiated a soft, ethereal glow, and their fragrance was rumored to be the sweetest in the entire realm. The dwarfs of Dwarfton believed that within the Elysian blooms resided the essence of life itself. Through generations of experimentation and a deep connection to the mystical energies of their forest home, they had discovered how to extract this essence without harming the flowers. The process was a closely guarded secret, passed down from elder to apprentice, ensuring the survival of both the blooms and their village. Every morning, the dwarfs would gather in a ceremonial procession beneath the great blossom tree. They would sing ancient songs to honor the natural world and express their gratitude for the gifts it provided. With great care and reverence, they would pluck one bloom at a time, using delicate crystal vials to capture its essence. The vials would glow with the captured energy, pulsating like tiny stars. The essence they collected was used for many purposes in Dwarfton. It was their source of sustenance, enhancing their vitality and extending their lifespan far beyond the average dwarf. It was also used in their healing potions, capable of mending wounds and curing ailments that were otherwise incurable. And in times of great need, it could be harnessed for powerful magic, protecting the village from harm. Life in Dwarfton was harmonious and serene. The dwarfs lived in perfect balance with the forest, ensuring that their flower gathering did not harm the great blossom tree or deplete its blooms. In return, the tree continued to flourish, producing ever more abundant and radiant Elysian blooms. One day, an outsider stumbled upon Dwarfton while wandering through the forest. A human named Alara had become lost and, exhausted, had collapsed at the base of the great blossom tree. The dwarfs, guided by their innate kindness, took her in, nursed her back to health, and shared their village's secret with her. Alara was in awe of the dwarfs' connection to nature and their unique ability to extract the essence of life from the Elysian blooms. She decided to stay in Dwarfton, dedicating herself to learning their ways. Alara's presence in Dwarfton brought about a significant change in the village. She was a quick learner and possessed a deep respect for the forest and its mystical secrets. Under the guidance of the village elders, she honed her skills in extracting and utilizing the essence of the Elysian blooms. Her bond with the dwarfs grew stronger with each passing day, and she became a cherished member of their community. As Alara's understanding of the Elysian blooms and their life essence deepened, she realized the potential to share their gifts with the outside world. She believed that the essence could bring healing and harmony to those in need. However, she also knew that revealing Dwarfton's existence to the world was a risky endeavor, as it could attract those who sought to exploit the magic of the blooms. Alara decided on a cautious approach. She began to invite a select few humans who showed a genuine appreciation for nature and a willingness to protect the secret of Dwarfton. As time passed and more humans were initiated into the secrets of Dwarfton, the village's existence became less hidden. While the newcomers initially adhered to the village's code of respect for the forest and the Elysian blooms, a few individuals became more interested in the potential power and wealth that the life essence held. These individuals, driven by greed and ambition, began to experiment with more aggressive methods of extracting the life essence from the Elysian blooms. Instead of the careful and gentle harvesting techniques taught by the dwarfs, They sought shortcuts and more potent forms of the essence. Their reckless actions had dire consequences. The Elysian blooms, once abundant and radiant, began to wither and fade. The great blossom tree, which had thrived for centuries, showed signs of distress as its branches drooped, and its leaves turned a sickly shade of brown. The dwarfs, who had lived in harmony with the forest for generations, were devastated by this turn of events. They saw the once vibrant blooms slowly being sucked dry by these unscrupulous humans. The village elders convened an emergency council to address the crisis. Nelder, the chief elder of Dwarfton, stood beneath the shade of the great blossom tree, its once vibrant blooms now showing signs of distress. The dwarfs of the village had gathered around him, their faces marked with worry and sorrow. Nelder cleared his throat, his voice steady but filled with concern. Nelder, my fellow kin of Dwarfton, gather close, for we face a grave challenge that threatens the very heart of our village. I stand before you today not as a bearer of joyous news, but as a bearer of dire tidings. Dwarf 1, what's happened? Why does Nelder look so grave? Nelder, as you all know, we have welcomed humans into our midst, sharing with them the sacred knowledge of the Elysian blooms and the essence of life. However, in their thirst for power and riches, some of these humans have forsaken our teachings and brought great harm to our beloved blooms. Dwarf 3, how could they do such a thing? Have they no respect for the balance of nature? Nelder, indeed, some have forgotten the sacred pact we hold with this forest and its treasures. The Elysian blooms, once abundant and radiant, are now withering under their ruthless methods of extraction. Our great blossom tree, the heart of our village, is in distress. Dwarf 4, what shall we do, Chief Nelder? We cannot let them destroy our home. Nelder, I share your anger and concern, but we must tread carefully. We are dwarfs of Dwarfton, guardians of nature's harmony. We must not stoop to their level of greed and destruction. Dwarf 5, what can we do then? Nelder, we shall first attempt to reason with those humans who have lost their way, urging them to return to our traditional methods of essence extraction. We must remind them of the delicate balance we've upheld for generations. Dwarf 6, and if they refuse? Nelder, if they persist in their reckless actions and continue to harm the blooms and the great blossom tree, then we shall have no choice but to use the magic we've long forbidden. It is a powerful and ancient spell that will shield our village from harm but at great cost. Dwarf 7, are we prepared for such drastic measures? Nelder, I hope it never comes to that, but we must be ready to defend our home, our traditions, and the Elysian blooms at any cost. We shall convene with Elara, and see what we can do first. One crisp morning, Nelder and a delegation of dwarfs made their way to Elara's cottage on the outskirts of the village. They found her tending to her own garden, surrounded by the vibrant colors of various flowers. When they approached, she looked up, her face etched with curiosity and concern. Nelder, Lady Elara, we come to you with heavy hearts in a matter of utmost urgency. Elara, Chief Nelder, what has brought you here with such solemnity? Nelder, it concerns the Elysian blooms, the very heart of our village. Some of the humans we have welcomed into Dwarfton are exploiting them recklessly, endangering our way of life. Elara, exploiting the Elysian blooms? That's not possible. They are saying the blooms are simply dying of old age. Nelder, Lady Elara, we know the truth. Elysian blooms can live for centuries, and they rarely perish of old age. Their current state is far from natural. We have witnessed their rapid decline, and we fear the humans' reckless actions are causing it. Elara, but how can you be so sure? Perhaps you're mistaken. Dwarf 1, we've tended to these blooms for generations, Lady Elara. We've observed their resilience and vitality. What we see now is a departure from their natural state. Dwarf 2, we respect your knowledge and your presence here, but we also know the essence we've shared with you has taught you to see beyond what is visible to most. Elara, I had no idea. I trust the humans who came here. They came in here with good intentions, to extract the life essence which we will use to cure those in need. Nelder, that is why we come to you now, Lady Alara. We know you are using it to cure those in need, but you cannot do so while we are the ones that are being hurt. We have welcomed you here because we trusted your kindness and desire to learn. Alara, okay, I will do whatever I can to help, Chief Nelder. We cannot let the Elysian blooms wither and fade. Their magic is too precious to be lost. Alara knew she had to confront the humans who were exploiting the Elysian blooms and endangering the harmony of Dwarfton's enchanted forest. After a few more days passed, she gathered those humans who had been making false accusations and rumors. They assembled near the great blossom tree, its fading blooms serving as a poignant backdrop to their conversation. Alara, we must talk about what's happening with the Elysian blooms. The dwarfs have shown me that their actions are rooted in centuries of tradition and respect for the balance of nature. Human 1, Alara, we understand that they have their traditions, but we need the essence more than they do. Alara, but you don't understand. The way you're extracting the essence is causing harm to the blooms and the great blossom tree. You're disrupting the delicate balance that has sustained our village for generations. Human 2, we've seen the dwarfs collecting the essence every day. How do we know they're not keeping most of it for themselves? Alara, I've been with the dwarfs for a long time, and I can vouch for their honesty and integrity. They're not hoarding the essence. They've always been willing to share their knowledge and their wisdom. Human 3, Alara, maybe you're just siding with the dwarfs because they've shown you favor. They don't trust us. Alara, no, it's not about favoritism. It's about understanding and respecting the balance of nature. The Elysian blooms are sacred, and we must treat them as such. Human 4, we don't care about your traditions and your respect for nature. We need the essence for our own reasons, and we'll do whatever it takes to get it. Alara, please, you're not listening. If we continue down this path, the blooms may wither and die. The harmony of this village will be lost forever. The humans remained steadfast in their belief that they needed the essence more than the dwarfs did, and they were unwilling to acknowledge the harm they were causing. Alara's efforts to reason with them fell on deaf ears, and she left the meeting feeling disheartened and deeply troubled. The dwarfs had been listening in secret, hidden amongst the shadows of the great blossom tree and the bushes surrounding the meeting place. They had heard the humans' adamant refusal to cease their reckless exploitation of the Elysian blooms, and a sense of desperation had settled over them. Nelder, the chief elder, exchanged worried glances with his fellow dwarfs. They knew that the harmony of their village and the well-being of the Elysian blooms were at stake. Reluctantly, they made a difficult decision. It was time to use the forbidden spell, one that had been reserved for the direst of circumstances. With a solemn and heavy heart, Nelder raised his hand and began to chant an incantation, invoking the ancient magic that had been passed down through generations. The great blossom tree seemed to respond, its branches shivering as if awakening from a deep slumber. As Nelder continued to chant, the very essence of the tree flowed through his words and into the ground, causing the earth to tremble. Vines, thick and sturdy, sprouted from the ground, winding their way towards the humans who had refused to heed reason. The humans, caught off guard, tried to escape, but it was too late. The vines, guided by the great blossom tree's magic, wrapped around them, binding them tightly. Panic and fear filled their eyes as they were slowly transformed into bushes, their limbs becoming branches, and their bodies becoming clusters of Elysian blooms. Alara, who had been standing apart from the others, watched in shock as the transformation unfolded. She called out to Nelder in desperation. Alara, Chief Nelder, what have you done? This is not the way to resolve our differences. Nelder, Lady Alara, we had no other choice. The Elysian blooms and the harmony of our village were in grave danger. This spell, though forbidden, is our last resort to protect what we hold dear. The transformation was swift, and before long, the humans had become bushes covered in radiant Elysian blooms, their voices silenced. The great blossom tree, having carried out the spell, returned to its peaceful state, its branches swaying gently in the breeze. The dwarfs gathered around the transformed bushes, their faces marked with sorrow for what had transpired. They knew that they had taken a drastic step, one that would forever change the fate of Dwarfton and its relationship with the outside world. Elara, torn between her loyalty to the humans and her deep bond with the dwarfs, was left to grapple with the consequences of the forbidden spell and the transformation of those who had once been her fellow humans into bushes of Elysian blooms. The village of Dwarfton had taken a drastic step to protect its secrets and the delicate balance of nature, but at what cost remained uncertain. If you've listened until now, make sure you like and subscribe, so you'll know when the next story comes around.